What is up, everybody? I'm NoLucksGiven, and today we are going to take a look at a Peter Pants game that is potentially the biggest pants game I have ever played. These are some huge pants that we are going to look at, and it starts with a pretty good turn one. The Cindy, take it or leave it, but the fact that we get to lock Brave Princess in this opening shop is really good. That's going to just easily allow us to grab an early tier 3 treasure and take a look for that hat ball. I picked up the Cindy instead of the Madman because maybe it gives us a chance of getting a tie or a win on this first combat and preserve our health total a little bit. Not really going to work out, but not too big of a deal. Not going to worry about the Madman at this point. We are just going to focus on picking up some level 3 characters. And about a week and a half ago, I put out a Peter Pants characters tier list, and I'm basically going to follow that in this game as I do in all of my Peter Pants games, because I think that that gives us the most chances to win. So we'll see if we can make anything nice happen with just picking up the typical stuff. I don't really think anything super crazy happens in the build-up to this game. It's just that everything goes pretty well, and we're able to put a nice game together. So I'm going to pick up a blind mouse here rather than go for a tier 3 unit, because I don't mind trying to pick up the tier 4 treasures early as well. And especially on turn 3, picking up two cost units can be pretty reasonable. But mostly, I mean, if it was like 2 Minotaurs, then I might roll or just pick up the Ogre Princess in that case. But definitely don't mind picking up Blind Mouse and another pretty good tier 2 unit to just add to the overall board, preserve our health total a little bit, and playing more units actually does increase the chance that Brave Princess is able to slay, because that will mean that it's less likely to get attacked into. Unfortunately, we attack into the one thing that we could not slay against on my opponent's side of the field, so a little bit unlucky. And I'm not super excited to pick up Darkwood Creepers, but it is an early pair. So I do think I'm going to go ahead and pick up these creepers. After considering it for a second here, we are going to have to sell one of our other units to pick it up. Honestly, could have just been Cinderella, but I decide to sell out of the Minotaur and pick up these 1/4s. I think as 1/4s, they're going to be almost as good as 2/4s at this stage of the game, so shouldn't be too big of a deal. Then I'm going to backline the Brave Princess to potentially give it the chance to double attack. So that is the idea here. Playing up against Pied Piper, they are a low health Pied Piper, but Pied Piper is normally pretty strong early, so not expecting too much out of this combat, but it's going to go well. We get some decent combat RNG, and then we do get the slay with Brave Princess. That's all we're going to get is that one slay, but we also tie the combat, so pretty nice stuff there. And then we also get some additional stats on these Darkwood Creepers. I would love to Shard of the Ice Queen the Brave Princess if it was already active, but I'm fine just picking up a Sleeping Princess and sharding that here. And basically whatever evil unit we get is great, because we either get an evil unit that I like to play, or we get a Darkwood Creeper, which would give us a treasure and an upgrade already, so that would not be too big of a deal. And then I'll pick up the Stag just to add a little bit of stats to the board, and hopefully that will also potentially allow this Brave Princess to slay, though it could slay even without help from the Stag. Stag is going to go down here, and then Vampire is going to slay. And I do think Brave Princess will be set up pretty nicely here to slay. Yeah, only one choice, but it will indeed slay, so that is good. And we are going to walk away from this one with a loss. Unfortunately, got a little bit unlucky in the combat RNG, but we will get pretty lucky in that we get to pick up a tier 3 treasure, and it's Merlin's hat. It's one of the treasures that we are actually looking for. So that's pretty good. I'll grab a Spellweaver on this turn, and that's going to be good for us. And then I'm going to True Love's Kiss this upgraded Brave Princess. It seems good enough to me. And we get Feasting Dragon. We just looked at Feasting Dragon in yesterday's video, actually. And this game is also going to have some nice Feasting Dragon stuff to help set us up in the early game in a really nice way. So Feasting Dragon, not typically a Peter Pan's character. That was not on the tier list, but it's going to be good. At this stage of the game, this is basically 3.2, right, for everybody. And that is going to mean that a 10-16, yeah, it's going to have a reasonable chance to slay. And then it's going to give everything in our shop for the rest of the game +2/+2. It is basically like gaining 6 XP when you're playing Peter Pan's, because every 3 XP gives you +1/+1 on everything in the shop. So it's kind of like the old adventuring princess. I forget the name of that card, but there was a card that used to do slay, you gain XP, or slay, you gain 2 XP on the upgraded. Well, this is 2 whole levels, giving everything in the shop +1/+1. We are going to walk away from this combat with a loss, unfortunately, really close loss, but we are going to lose. But we did give everything in the shop +2/+2, and I locked this shop to pick up the Vampire and then also the Shadow Assassin. So that's the idea here. Honestly, I probably should have cast the Gingerbread Party. I'm realizing that right now, right as I'm about to roll. So I think I do go ahead and cast the Gingerbread Party. Puts us a little bit closer to Cinderella. A little bit awkward, but we'll go ahead and do it here. Could lock on to Shard of the Ice Queen, and I think I do briefly lock onto it, but ultimately decide that, you know what, we'll run into Shard of the Ice Queen later on. I don't need to super actively pursue it. We'll find it. We'll figure it out. So not going to stress out about that one. But yeah, I think that we have got a reasonably strong board, and one thing that is kind of cute with this board is we actually are scaling the Feasting Dragon because of the Darkwood Creeper. So that is a nice kind of incidental synergy that we got going on. That is giving the Feasting Dragon a little bit more stats so that it can give everything else a little bit more stats too. And does look like we're going to walk away from this one with a loss as well, but that's okay. We are down to 17. I still feel reasonably healthy, even though we are in the bottom 3, and that's mostly because we also already have the Merlin's Hat, and then we've got a bunch of pairs that we're working on too. I do slightly consider the Kidnap against Snow Angel, mostly just to activate the Cinderella, get that out of the way, but I'm going to keep on going. I feel like I can find potentially better spells as, or with this Merlin's Hat. So going to pick up Vampire here, and while I don't think this is the best use of Treasure Map, it can be good to use Treasure Map along with Cindy, and then grab a tier 4 treasure, potentially find that Forking Rod. And I feel like that is worth going for here. We get to pick up Gloves of Thieving, which can potentially present some interesting avenues when you are playing Peter Pan's. It'll at least just give us a little bit of econ every turn. At the very least, it's like a spinning gold, but maybe it can steal some really sweet stuff for us and push us in an interesting potential direction. Not gonna lock onto the Stag here. I definitely think about it, but I'm just gonna try to pursue 3-cost units that are evil, and again, maybe we'll Shard of the Ice Queen, the Stag that we have in our hand. This Feasting Dragon is continuing to slay and also grow because of the creepers, and our ranged units in the back line are able to put in enough work that we take out this Snow Angel. And now we've got a few good units to be able to pick up here. We get to take a Darkwood Creeper, probably go for the Sting just to support the Feasting Dragon a little bit, and then I'll pick up a Spellweaver that's much bigger than the Spellweaver that we had because of the Feasting Dragon, and then I will grab a Shadow Assassin. I move around my units a little bit, but we find Crystal Ball, and I actually wish that I moved around my units a little bit more and just put the mummy in slot 3, because now when I take Crystal Ball, I'm going to have to lose my Sting, which does mean that we're playing a slightly weaker board this turn than we otherwise would have. We could sell Cindy and just try to find one more spell this turn, because now we do have Hat Ball. So that's not like the most unreasonable thing. I guess I don't wind up going for it though. Okay, yeah, I just hang on to the Cindy for the Econ. But now we've got Hat and Ball. So stuff is going really, really nicely for us. That's what I said, like 18 health, 17 health. I feel pretty good about this one. And everything just kind of came together for us too. So that was nice. But we've got the hat and we've got the ball. Now we just need to find some mages and really start to put this board together. Unfortunately, this Wonder Waddle is really, really quite strong. And it does look like they are going to get the better of us on this one. So we'll take a little bit more damage, but honestly, only 5 damage. Well, or 8 damage rather. They were level 5. Down to 10. I do wish we had a little bit more health. We'll pick up a Spellweaver though here, 2 Spellweavers actually, and that is going to really help push us forward. Because now we've got some mages, and the Spellweavers are even not that expensive to pick up, because we've got the, we can skip the treasure, so for, what is that, 4 coin, we pick up a nice addition of Spellweavers to the board, and now we can find 1 more, and it won't triple, and then we'll have 3 Spellweavers. Do consider there just picking up like a baby root to cast the sugar and spice on, and then we get a Shard of the Ice Queen, so I would have been able to cast a few spells on it, but not a huge deal. And then when we do run into the Blind Mouse, I'm feeling like we can sell the Cinderella and pick up the Blind Mouse here, and we get Forking Rod. So again, that is going to be a really nice treasure for us this early on, and allow us to just go crazy with Peter Pants. I said in my tier list video, that's what takes Peter Pants and makes him into Super Peter Pants. I will have to pick up the treasure now because I feel like I want to play this 24/24 Blind Mouse. So I'm going to toss the Gloves of Thieving, but we don't really need it. I mean, maybe we would steal a mage. Not really going to be the biggest deal, though, all things considered. We will just be looking for mages of our own, some Spellweavers, and some Wizards Familiars, and we're pretty strong at this point, too, with a really good ranged backline that we actually take out Jack's Giant. And you can tell the rest of the lobby is looking like they're going to die pretty soon. So this could be a quick game, but we still got a lot more game to play because we get to cast a bunch of spells every turn now, now that we are on 12 gold. And all of that gold is just going to go to spells. I guess we could use some of the gold to purchase some things like Baby Root or whatever, just to cast some additional spells on. I will go do that here, and then I don't think I do it again though. Yeah, I think I decide to roll the second time. It's always kind of interesting. Like, it's good to keep around a tree and a monster and stuff like that, but you always very quickly run out of good units, at least before you start beauties influencing everything. Eventually, all of your units are good. That's kind of like the end game build for Peter Pants. And the end game build for Peter Pants is also going to involve a bunch of True Love's Kisses. We'll double cast that on the Feasting Dragon and give ourselves an upgraded Jormungand. Pretty sweet stuff. We could sell 2 units here to, again, just shard a Sherwood Sure Shot. The one nice thing that always does do is it takes a unit out of the shop as well, which means that there's an extra room for spells to roll into, and that's going to allow us to cast a double Kidnap on this turn, which could have been really nice, but my opponent is hiding their Wizard's Familiar in the back line. So we're not going to get insane value out of this one. We're just going to steal some Medusas. But maybe we can do some nice work here with, I mean, Medusa's a fine unit. We'll potentially play it in some capacity, though it's going to be tough to fit on the board. We take out the Pied Piper, and Yeah, honestly, probably just want to cycle through the Medusa in the shop just for econ at this point. It's probably not doing anything super crazy for us, but we do get to find our first Wizard's Familiar, so that's really nice. And we do have a tree, so we'll get to start casting some spells on that. Now that we've got a Wizard's Familiar as well, it starts to get a lot more profitable to purchase a good unit just to cast a few spells on it, and then we do find one of those Beauty's Influences. So we can go ahead and cast that on like one of our Spellweavers or something, though I guess if we, and here's another Beauty's Influence, there we go, I told you, by the end everything turns good. And it would be nice to potentially, like now we have the Cupid that we can Shard of the Ice Queen on, so that does give us some flexibility, because you don't want to Shard of the Ice Queen your Spellweavers, and it's always kind of awkward. Like, you want to cast Beauty's Influence on your Spellweavers, but then you also want to cast it on units that you are going to level up so that you can Shard of the Ice Queen them. I wind up casting Double Shrink Ray, which, if that's your last spell, it does give you some econ into the next turn. You can cycle through the shop, and then you've got 4 extra gold. I just didn't have the time to do it all with all of the other spell castings and things. Didn't have time to lock the shop, I even mean. So we will not worry about that too much. It added a little bit more stats to our Spellweavers and Wizard's Familiars, and that's still important too. We're going to take out the Sphinx now as well. Been getting a bunch of kills here in a row, and we are really ramping things up. We've got Spellweavers in the hundreds at this point, 100, but still in the hundreds nonetheless. We'll get a Hungry Hippocampus with our True Love's Kiss, and the reason that I upgraded the Hippocampus is, or the Blind Mice, is because I knew we could do it twice and get it into being a tier 6 unit, and I wanted to keep the Darkwood Creeper as our tree, but then we find a Green Knight, so that is going to make for a much better tree because we'll actually play that for the time being. And yeah, now Witch's Brew can only get cast on this Medusa or the Billy Goat. We are slowly running out of evil units here, and Beauty's Influence is going to mean that we are down even one more. I'll go for a True Love's Kiss on the Jormungand because I don't really think that's got too much synergy with the rest of the stuff we got going on. It does pump up the Shadow Assassin, but I don't really want to play the Shadow Assassin for too much longer either. Then I'm going to sell out of Medusa and True Love's Kiss it again because I really don't want anything to do with a Echo Wood. That is just a little bit too slow. And then I find a Good Boy, and this gives us a ton of power. I'll also double cast a Spinning Gold at the end of the turn, and Good Boy supported by a Green Knight is going to give us a huge amount of stats on the board. We can see Wonder Waddle trying to do some similar things, but all of my units are good, like I said. So that is going to provide a ton of extra stats across the board, and most of my units are ranged as well, so we are going to wind up getting a pretty easy win. And now we've got 6 extra gold to make use of in this next shop. So all of that is going pretty well for us. We get to pick up another Spellweaver, and Beauty's Influence it immediately so it can be affected by the Good Boy. And then I'll take another Spellweaver and go for a Worm Root on the Shadow Assassin and upgrade the Wizard's Familiar too. That's also really sweet. Definitely just skipping the treasure. Go for Sugar and Spice on the Good Boy. Basically want any spells that I can cast other than Shard of the Ice Queen to go on the Good Boy. Shard can probably go on either the Cupid or probably should really just go on the Creeper now that I have another tree, but I decided to cast it on the Shadow Assassin. I think I just wasn't thinking of the Creeper, and it gives us a Spellweaver, so not too bad. That is going to be pretty sweet. Like I said, this game gets to be one of my most impressive Peter Pan's games that I've ever gotten to put together. We're going to gain even more life. I think we were at 10 at one point, but now we're up to 20, and we will cast a few more spells on this good boy before ending the turn. We can go for another spinning gold, or we can roll one more time to try to find a few more spells before we do some things here. And what I'm thinking is, let's put our biggest Spellweavers. Oh, I'm going to go for a Shrink spell again. And do I get the lock off in time? No, I don't. I think the animation is somewhat disrupting the ability to lock the shop sometimes there. But basically what I'm thinking is we can put our big Spellweavers in the front. They'll actually be able to battle with everything my opponent is doing, and then my lesser Spellweavers will get the pump up from that good boy, and they'll have a little bit more stats to do some work. Unfortunately, we do still get a loss, so we are back down to 11, but we are scaling a lot, and there is a lot that we can turn this board into. Gonna go for a True Love's Kiss on the Darkwood Creeper. We get an upgraded Shoulder Fairies, which is gonna have a bunch of health, but not too much attack. So I'll True Love's Kiss it again. It's gonna give us a Lordy, a good Lordy, which is nice because we can still Shard of the Ice Queen it, but not super impressed with that either. We'll go back up to 13 health, and then luckily we do have this other Spellweaver in the back line to cast Witch's Brews on, because that is our only evil unit at this point. And Potion of Heroism, all of those should be going on Good Boy, just didn't quite think of it at the time. I'll go for a Shard on the Lordy, and that's going to give us an Ashwood Elm, and then I'll go for Luna's Grace on Good Boy and see what else we can get up to. We could put this Ashwood Elm in. It's not the worst thing in the world, but I'd have to cut a ranged unit. So we could cut like our smallest Spellweaver, but I do think all of our Spellweavers are pretty good. And then, yeah, here we're going Potion of Heroism on the good boys. Roll it one last time. We're going to wind up locking on this Spellweaver, and we actually get a Spellweaver off the roll the die. So we'll grab that, skip, and then roll a few more times again. We're out of time. There's just too much happening in this one. My opponent ran out of time too. They did not get to cast a spell this turn, but they are still doing pretty good with the Mimic Chest plus Magic Sword and Spear of Achilles, allowing their good boy to give a bunch of stats to Burning Tree. Kind of an interesting comp there, but it's working out, and not working out great for us. They are going to hit us for a little bit more damage. They hit us for 13 down to 4. Luckily, we gained 3 life last turn, that we are able to kind of survive a little bit here. But now I think it is time to Mix-a-Wizzle the Wizard's Familiar, because we basically have a full board. So I'm going to go for 2 Mix-a-Wizzles. We get 3 big pigs, not super exciting, but we do also have a True Love's Kiss that we can cast on the 3 big pigs turned Wizard's Familiar, or Wizard's Familiar turned 3 big pigs. That's going to give us an upgraded good boy. And that is how this game becomes the biggest pants that I have ever gotten to play, because now we've got a 200 attack and health upgraded good boy, plus an additional upgraded good boy, and those stats work out really well. Good Boy can no longer pump itself with things like Trophy Hunter and Copycat, but it can pump other Good Boys, and that is the premier. This is like basically the best endgame board comp that you can have while playing Peter Pants. I'm even just going to try to make my board a little bit stronger, cast a few more spells, see what I can find, and I find a Candy Rain, which does get to go on the newfound upgraded Good Boy, but the Good Boy is going to give the other Good Boy plus 442, and then that Good Boy is going to be able to give everything else even more stats, and it's just going to go absolutely nuts. So Good Boy will get to attack here, then the other Good Boy's almost at 500, and we're losing our whole front line, but now our back line gets plus 1000 because of that, and these Spellweavers are going to be a little bit too much for my opponent to take down. So we're going to get our first win in a minute. And yeah, now we are just trying to cast a few more spells. Basically, we just want to cast as many spells on Good Boy as we possibly can. And I think I'm going to try to diversify a little bit, put some more spells on the second upgraded Good Boy, so that way whatever order they die in, it's still pretty strong for us, and we'll see how big we can make this secondary Good Boy this turn. But with 2 upgraded Good Boys, I mean, we get really, really lucky if the big one dies first, but even if the small one dies first, it's still a ton of stats and just a ton of ranged units that is really going to make this combat tough for my opponent to deal with. So I run through everything, and then I'm going to sell through the mummy, see if I can't find one more spell to cast on these Good Boys, give us a little bit more. Okay, not Shard of the Ice Queen. I mean, I'll cast Shard of the Ice Queen on the 3 big pigs, just because it's a spell that we can cast, and that winds up rolling more spells into the shop. And then I'm even going to sell this Ashwood Elm that we get and end on this Witch's Brew, just to try to cast as many spells as we possibly can in this last turn. And yeah, this is full build. Cupid gets to take something out early on, or potentially even get a 2-for-1, and then the Good Boys get to die and give a whole bunch of stats. Me and my opponent playing pretty similar comps here at the end, but ultimately we are going to get pretty lucky again that our big Good Boy dies first, and that makes all of our Spellweavers go up into the thousands, which is enough to get the win. So there you go. These are definitely the biggest Spellweavers that I've been able to make as a Peter Pants gamer, thus leading to the biggest pants that I have ever been able to put together. So hopefully you guys had fun with that one. I know that I did. That is going to be it for me today. Thank you very much for watching. I'm NoLucksGiven. Peace.